Hey everyone, my name is Kia and I'm a medical student here at UBC. I applied and got accepted to medical schools in Canada and the US, and I did apply to both MDs and the DOs. I get the question a lot, what is a DO? What is an MD? Welcome back to the Kia Effect. In this video, I want to really answer the question that I get a lot of times. What is a DO? How is it different from an MD? Why does a DO versus an MD pathway even exist? And these two medical schools, how are they different? And what does the residency look like after you graduated? So I really try to answer all these questions as we go along. So let's just get into it. Let's start with the basics. We have the MD. MD is the traditional pathway of becoming a doctor in Canada, US, and all the other countries in the globe. It stands for medical doctor, doctor of medicine, and what it is the traditional pathway of approaching a biomedical approach when you're treating patient. You do surgeries, you diagnose the patient's sickness, and then you give them medication. A DO medical school and a DO degree basically is Doctor of Osteopathic versus the Doctor of Allopathic that we had in MD. A DO doctor is fully licensed just as an MD, and while they are in the medical school, they are taking the exact same courses and criteria to becoming a doctor, plus they're having more coursework, they're having more learning curriculum, which is called OMT, or an Osteopathic Manipulative Treatment. So in an OMT, if I want to just simply say what it is doctors will learn to, medical students will learn to use their hands to diagnose and treat the patient. This is really helpful if you are going to sport medicine, or if you, or many family physicians who are DOs might actually use this treatment method they have learned. Well, we also do have a lot of DO medical doctors who I've seen don't really use the OMT as much. So the point I want to drive here is both DOs and MDs are both physicians practicing medicine. They both go to medical school, they both do the board exam, go to residency, and specialize in the specialization that they like to pursue. So if you want to become a physician through going to the DO school or MD school, you should know that many of the schools, both DO and MD, might need the MCAT exam. They are both 4 years of medical school, and after that you can apply for residency. If you're in the US, you are doing the US MLA, and if you're in Canada, well, Canada only has MD, so I'm not gonna really compare. But in the US, MD students take this exam called US MLE to get into the residency, while DO students are taking the COMLEX exam. And in addition to COMLEX, many DO students also take the US MLE to make options open for the residency. And since I think 2020, both MDs and DOs both apply to the same pool of people being chosen for residency, meaning that there's a same singular accreditation system that approves or chooses medical students for the residency, whether they are DO or MD. So if you go to Canada for your medical school, it's much more simpler and also easier to match into Canadian residencies. Although DOs might not be able to come to Canada for their residency, but a DO physician can totally come to Canada and practice medicine. So many DO doctors who are Canadians usually do their residency in the US, and after either stay in the US or come back to Canada to practice. And the only drawback is if you're going to a certain countries in the world, not North America, then it might be hard for a DO doctor, a DO physician to get their degree approved so they can practice there. Just have this in mind. So what is the philosophical difference between the MD and a DO? Why is it even that we do have these two degrees separated? So MD degree traditionally is approaching more of a biomedical approach of diagnosing disease and trying to find the biology behind it, treat it with some sort of medication. While DO learned the biomedical model same as MD does, but a DO is more focused on a patient-centered and a holistic approach of medicine. Saying that, it doesn't mean that an MD is not holistic or is not approaching, is not patient-centered, but in the DO medical school, you have more emphasis, more learning done toward this goal. You might hear this a lot from a DO doctor, that the body has an innate ability to treat itself, and a doctor's job is to support this, support the patient throughout the process. I really like the philosophy behind DO. You can go search up and read more about the philosophy behind a DO versus an MD, seeing that doctors have to really care about the patient and being patient-centered, which is something that I truly care about and I think should be in every curriculum in every medical school as well. In practice, many DOs and MDs are doing the exact same thing, practicing the same medicine. But if you're someone who strongly believes in a whole person, you really enjoy the philosophy behind DO, then I think you would love DO school. The other point that I wanted to make is, and there's no denying it, there's a stigma toward the DO doctors. This is changing really fast, but previously we've seen that many patients might not know what is a DO, especially in Canada, where we do not have DO schools. And also some doctors might think that a DO doctor is not as qualified. But this is changing really fast. We have a lot of amazing DO doctors who've done a lot of great work in medicine. You now are seeing DOs as amazing researchers, as hospital heads, as amazing surgeons, and in every residency you will find a DO student. Nowadays we are seeing many DO students getting accepted to the same really highly competitive residency, and patients not really noticing whether the doctor is a DO or an MD. Now I want to answer the question that you might have in your brain right now, that I've heard DO students have a lower chance of getting into residencies. Is it true or no? I want to really drive this point that many students who go into DO schools, they initially have the thought that they want to be family physicians. They believe in the process of healing that a DO student is trained for, and they want to really use that to become a great family physician who cares about the whole person. So you see that a lot in between the medical students in a DO school. They are not looking for other residencies, but they are actually just wanting to go to to become a family physician. There is less demand for those residencies in between the medical students in a DO school. Also, if you are a DO student and you are wanting to go to neurosurgery, for example, you might see that you are doing the same process, you are going through the same process as an MD student, and you're competing against them. So it's really you personally versus them personally. You might see there are more support provided for people who want to do residencies that are highly competitive in the MD schools. But this is also changing really fast, really rapidly. Many DO schools have provided support for students who are aiming to go to highly competitive residencies. So the question now is, why did I choose to go to an MD school over a DO school? And the answer is, I did not. I chose to go to a Canadian school because, first of all, Canadian school for me is very cheap. It's 20K Canadian versus a 70K US dollars in the US. Also, it's Canada, it's home. I really like to stay here. I do have my family, friends, and I really cared about not wanting to move, especially from BC, where I've been living here for so long now. If you are someone who really cares about the holistic approach of medicine and you want to use hands-on approach like the OMT, or just looking for another route to medicine, DO is a perfect option. Also, I should mention that getting into a DO medical school is easier compared to getting into an MD medical school, especially in the US. Usually you see the stats are a little bit lower. You still need to take the MCAT, but the MCAT score you might require to get into a DO school is lower than a MD school. Either way, if you're a DO or MD, you are saving lives, you are building trust with patients, and work shoulder to shoulder in hospitals in North America. I hope this helped you a little bit understanding what is a DO and how is it different from an MD. If I missed anything, just let me know in the comment. I love to support your journey and help understand certain things that I had through my experience. If you haven't watched my video about how I worked 45 hours plus and did the MCAT, you can just watch it right here. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.